You've been told a comforting story your whole life, and you've repeated it to yourself because it kept you safe. Work hard, be agreeable, wait your turn, and someday the door will open. But as you're watching this, someone with half your insight is already walking through doors you didn't even know existed. They get the meetings, they hold the room, they take the seat you talk yourself out of. And if you're honest, there's a quiet burn inside you. When is it going to be my turn? Here's the first hard reset. The game isn't stacked against you as much as it is invisible to you. While you were studying how to be liked, other people were studying how to be effective. While you were mastering apologies, they were mastering leverage. While you were asking for permission, they were building self-issued authority. Power is not a personality, it's a pattern. Confidence is not a mood, it's a system. And once you learn the actual rules, you stop waiting for validation like it's oxygen. So that's what we're doing here. No fluff, no shallow motivation. I'm going to hand you 7 psychological principles that change how you move. After this, you won't talk the same, walk the same, negotiate the same, or tolerate the same. You won't be louder, you'll be heavier. People won't just hear you, they'll adjust around you. If you're ready to claim that shift, drop this in the comments right now. I'm no longer asking, I'm choosing. Let's start with the first rule, the one that rewires everything you've been taught. 1. Your mouth is your enemy. I learned this the hard way. Picture a long table, one of those meetings where the table itself feels expensive. Everyone around me made, in a month, what I took home in a year. I wanted to prove I belonged. So I did what school trains you to do. Participate. I filled every pause with smart-sounding words, added jokes to keep it light, explained my reasoning like I was defending a thesis. I thought contribution meant volume. Meanwhile, the person with the most power in that room said almost nothing. When he finally spoke, short sentence, neutral tone, the conversation pivoted like the earth tilted. When he went quiet again, other people started over-explaining, revealing too much, scrambling to impress a man who hadn't asked for anything. That was the moment it clicked. In power, speech leaks leverage. Every extra word you offer is data you can't retract. Every unnecessary explanation teaches people how to handle you next time. Every compulsion to fill a silence is a quiet admission that you fear the space more than they do. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. It forces people to project. And the human mind hates an unfinished picture. It rushes to complete it. When you stop narrating your inner monologue, other people begin narrating it for you. They wonder what you know, how you judge, whether you agree. Their uncertainty becomes your gravity. They lean in, not because you demanded attention, but because you conserved it. Practically, this means you retire 3 habits today. Habit 1. The early answer. When someone throws a question into the room, don't sprint to be first. Count a slow 3. Watch who jumps in from insecurity. Listen to what they reveal in the rush. Then, if your words still add asymmetric value, deliver them brief and edged. Power doesn't chase the microphone. It times it. Habit 2. The bonus explanation. You gave the answer. Stop. You made the decision. Stop. Adding "just so you know" paragraphs is how you downgrade authority to a group project. If someone truly needs more, they'll ask. If they don't, your extra reasons aren't clarity. They're leakage. Habit 3. The comfort filler. That nervous laugh. That line you toss out to smooth the air. That reflexive, "does that make sense?" Retire them. You are not responsible for mopping up other people's discomfort with your self-soothing. Let the silence sit. Let the pause breathe. If someone wants to break it, make them pay in information. Now, here's what makes this rule so devastatingly effective. While they're talking, they're mapping themselves. People audition their insecurities if you give them enough runway. In a 5-minute ramble, you'll hear what they fear, what they envy, who they're trying to please, where they overcompensate, and how they justify bad moves. That's better than any LinkedIn bio or resume. That's live intelligence. And no, this isn't about being cold or robotic. It's about switching your default from prove to observe, from perform to position. When your words become deliberate, your presence becomes scarce. When your presence becomes scarce, your value becomes obvious. The person who can sit in stillness without fidgeting becomes the reference point, the one others calibrate against. Try this in your next conversation. When someone lobs a subtle dig or tries to bait you into over-explaining, pause. Tilt your head slightly. Hold eye contact. And ask calmly, "Did you mean it that way?" Then wait. No rescue, no softening, no nervous chuckle. Watch them either double down, exposing themselves, or backtrack, exposing themselves. Either way, you didn't raise your voice. You raised the price of admission. One more nuance. Speaking less doesn't mean saying nothing. It means saying exactly enough. Use words like a scalpel, not a blanket. One sentence that lands is worth more than 5 minutes that beg. The goal isn't mystery theater. The goal is disciplined signal, so intentional that people replay your line on the drive home. When I stopped thinking out loud, everything shifted. People began coming to me for opinions I no longer gave away for free. They worked harder for my approval because it wasn't automatic. They started phrasing things with, "I think you'll appreciate this." Because the currency had changed. I didn't need to dominate the room to lead it. I let the room reveal itself to me, and then I chose where to move. Lock this in. Restraint is not weakness. It's proof you're not negotiating for relevance. If you can sit in silence without abandoning yourself, you're already different from 90% of people in any room. And difference, real, felt difference, is the seed of respect. Type it to set the frame. I don't rush. I decide. 2. Your feelings are not your facts. Let me take you back to one of the hardest lessons I ever had to learn. Someone I trusted deeply betrayed me. Not with money, not with fists, but with words. They took things I had confessed in confidence, my lowest moments, my private fears, and they turned them into ammunition in a room full of people whose respect I valued. I sat there listening, my chest burning like it was on fire. Every part of me screamed to react, to defend, to argue, to prove. But something unexpected happened. I didn't move. I didn't defend. I didn't raise my voice. I stayed silent. And in that silence, something powerful revealed itself. My emotions were not commands. They were signals. Temporary, interpretable, optional. That moment taught me what Machiavelli already knew. Power doesn't belong to the person who feels the most. It belongs to the person who can choose whether to act on what they feel. Anger, humiliation, betrayal, those were not my identity. They were data. And when I treated them as information instead of orders, I stopped being reactive and started being untouchable. See, people want you to react because your reaction gives them control. When they insult you and you blow up, they just puppeteered your mood. When they betray you and you collapse, they just set your limits for you. When they guilt-trip you and you justify yourself, they've already won. Every outburst is evidence that you can be pulled like a lever. But the opposite is also true. When someone swings and you don't flinch, it unsettles them. When they expect chaos and you deliver calm, it exposes their lack of control. When they try to push your buttons and nothing happens, they realize those buttons are fake now. They no longer work. This doesn't mean becoming numb. It doesn't mean pretending you don't feel. It means you stop confusing temporary sensations with permanent truths. Fear isn't proof of danger. Anger isn't proof of injustice. Sadness isn't proof of weakness. They're signals, chemicals in motion, inviting you to observe, analyze, and then decide. The key shift: you become the observer of your emotions instead of the defendant in their trial. Let me give you practical steps. Next time someone betrays you, resist the reflex to explain yourself. Instead, sit in silence and think, what does this teach me about them? What leverage have they just given away? When someone insults you, instead of firing back, pause and think. What insecurity made them reach for that weapon? What fear are they showing me? And when someone tries to guilt you for setting boundaries, remind yourself, their discomfort doesn't prove I'm wrong. It proves the boundary was necessary. This is why Machiavelli said, since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved. But here's the nuance. This isn't about aggression. It's about emotional sovereignty. You're not feared because you're violent. You're feared because you cannot be moved against your will. People respect what they cannot manipulate. And when you master this, an incredible shift happens. People begin to see you as the calm eye in the storm. In a crisis, they turn to you not because you're the loudest, but because you're the one not drowning in feelings. Leaders aren't the ones with the most emotion. They're the ones who can make decisions while everyone else is spiraling. Here's the long-term reward. When you stop reacting, you start decoding. Every emotional display from others becomes data about them, not verdicts about you. Their rage, evidence of a fear they're protecting. Their guilt trips, evidence of control they don't want to lose. Their criticism, evidence that your progress threatens them. You stop being the puppet and start being the puppeteer, not through force, but through calm observation. Think of it like this. Your emotions are weather. They move in, they storm, they clear. But you're the climate, the underlying environment that remains stable no matter how many storms pass through. That stability makes you magnetic. People trust it. People follow it. People respect it even when they don't like it. Now engrave this. Your feelings are not your facts. Say it to yourself until it replaces the reflex. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to react just because the heat rises in your chest. You don't have to collapse because someone else wants you small. If silence was the first power, then emotional detachment is the second. Together, they form the shield. But power isn't just about defense. It's also about offense. And that brings us to the next rule, the one that separates people who get exploited from people who hold the strings. 3. Control information like your life depends on it. For years, I thought vulnerability meant sharing. I thought honesty meant transparency. I treated my life like an open book. Anyone could flip through it. I shared struggles, dreams, failures, fears, even half-formed ideas, with anyone who showed the slightest interest. I thought this made me authentic. I thought it made me strong. But I was wrong, and I paid for it, because every secret I shared became a story in someone else's mouth. Every plan I revealed became a punchline when I stumbled. Every confession I gave in weakness became leverage in someone else's hands. I had been giving away my strongest currency for free: information. And in the game of power, information is the only real currency. When I finally woke up to this, I started treating my personal information like state secrets. Not because I was ashamed, but because I realized scarcity creates value. The less people know about your thoughts, the more they respect the results. The less they know about your fears, the less they can weaponize them. The less they know about your plans, the less they can sabotage them. Think about the most powerful people you know: politicians, executives, leaders. How much do you really know about their private struggles, their next moves, their day-to-day weaknesses? Almost nothing. And that's not an accident. Mystery is strategy, and that's where we're heading next. 3. Control information like your life depends on it. For years, I lived like an open book. I mistook oversharing for authenticity, vulnerability for strength, transparency for honesty. If someone showed even a flicker of interest, I'd spill my struggles, my plans, my fears, my hopes. I thought connection meant disclosure. I thought giving people access to my inner world was proof of trust. But here's the brutal truth. Every secret I shared became currency for someone else. My weaknesses became evidence against me. My dreams became jokes. My failures became stories traded in whispers. I wasn't building connection. I was arming other people with ammunition against me. The wake-up call came hard. Information is power. More than money, more than talent, more than charisma. It's information. Who has it? Who withholds it? Who controls its flow? That alone dictates power dynamics in every room. And the truth is, most people are careless. They hand out information about themselves like free samples, never realizing how valuable it is. They tell their coworkers about their plans, their boss about their frustrations, their friends about their insecurities. And while they're talking, someone else is silently collecting, storing, and calculating. Every conversation is an exchange of intelligence. Either you're gathering or you're giving. The real question is, are you conscious of the trade? Or are you leaking state secrets while the other person sits there smiling, learning everything they need about how to play you? Here's what shifted everything for me. I started treating my personal life like a classified document. Not because I had anything to hide, but because mystery creates respect and scarcity creates value. Think about it. How much do you know about the private lives of the most respected people in your orbit? Almost nothing. And that mystery is not weakness, it's leverage. When people can't predict you, they have to respect you. When they don't know your inner world, they can only judge you by your results. And results, if you're competent, are undeniable. Machiavelli put it perfectly. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. What he meant was this: most people eventually realize they've overshared when it's too late, when their words have already been twisted, when their openness has already been turned into a weapon. The wise man, however, is strategic from the beginning. He chooses when, what, and to whom information is revealed, and never by accident. So here's how you shift. First, control the outflow. Your struggles, your next moves, your strategies, your boundaries, these are privileges, not rights. Not everyone has earned the right to know. The people who demand full access are often the ones least deserving of it. Second, sharpen the inflow. While you're careful about what you reveal, become precise about what you notice. People tell you everything if you're patient enough to listen. Their complaints reveal their weaknesses. Their bragging reveals their strategies. Their excuses reveal their fears. Every interaction is intelligence gathering, if you're paying attention. Third, weaponize timing. Information is not meant to be locked away forever. It's meant to be deployed at the right moment for maximum effect. Share a piece of data too early, and it's wasted. Share it too late, and it's irrelevant. But share it at the precise moment when it shifts perception, solidifies trust, or closes a deal, and it becomes unstoppable. This isn't manipulation. It's awareness. It's discipline. It's the understanding that in every human exchange, there's a hidden economy, and you either spend recklessly or you invest strategically. When I adopted this principle, everything changed. Suddenly, people stopped making jokes at my expense because I'd given them nothing to joke about. They stopped dismissing my goals because I wasn't announcing them before I had evidence. They stopped probing into my private life because mystery made them uncomfortable, and discomfort made them respect the distance. Meanwhile, I had more data than ever. By staying quiet, I heard everything. By asking simple questions and then shutting up, I learned more than people intended to share. By watching instead of talking, I picked up patterns. Who could be trusted? Who couldn't? Who was insecure? Who was ambitious? Who was desperate? When you learn to control information, you stop living in surprise. People no longer blindside you because their patterns were obvious long before the big move. You stop being reactive because you already knew what they wanted and how they'd try to get it. You stop being manipulated because you never give away the levers in the first place. Remember this: the less people know about how you think, the more they have to respect what you do. And once you learn this, you unlock the foundation for the next level of confidence. Because controlling information protects you from being exploited. But building competence makes you irreplaceable. That brings us to the next principle. 4. Make yourself irreplaceable through ruthless competence. I used to think being liked was enough. At every job, I was the nice one, the agreeable one. Always helpful, always accommodating, never rocking the boat. I thought likability was my insurance policy. If I was kind enough, easy enough, available enough, people would keep me around. But then I watched less nice people, sharper, colder, but far more competent, get the promotions, the opportunities, the recognition. I realized painfully that being easy to work with doesn't make you valuable. It makes you replaceable. And that's when I decided, if I wanted security, power, and confidence, I had to stop being agreeable and start being undeniable. Make yourself irreplaceable through ruthless competence. For years, I believed being the nice one was the secret to security. At work, I was agreeable, helpful, easy to get along with. I said yes to every request. I kept my head down, avoided conflict, and hoped people would notice my loyalty. I thought being likable meant being safe, but it didn't. Over and over, I watched others, sharper, tougher, sometimes less likable, get the promotions, the respect, the opportunities. Why? Because they delivered results that were impossible to ignore. They weren't the friendliest, but they were indispensable. And that's when I realized, niceness doesn't make you valuable. Competence does. Here's the brutal truth. If you're replaceable, your future depends on someone else's mood. But when you're so good at what you do that losing you costs more than keeping you, you hold leverage no one can take away. People may not like you, they may not agree with you, but they need you, and need always wins over preference. So what does ruthless competence look like? You know your craft better than anyone else. You study your field until people with double your years of experience still come to you for answers. You anticipate needs before others see them. Instead of waiting to react, you prevent problems before they exist. You innovate constantly. You're not just meeting standards, you're setting them. You improve systems, make things run smoother, and deliver outcomes that others didn't even imagine were possible. And the payoff? You stop worrying about job security, approval, or favoritism. Because competence outlasts favoritism. Charm fades, trends shift, but results are undeniable. Machiavelli once said, "There is nothing more difficult to take in hand more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Most people avoid that risk. They stay average because it feels safer. But those who dare to push boundaries, master their craft, and solve the problems no one else wants to touch, those are the ones who become irreplaceable. When you operate at that level, something shifts. People stop questioning your methods. They stop managing you and start protecting you. They know they can't afford to lose you. And that's where true confidence is born, not from pep talks or motivational quotes, but from evidence. When you can point to undeniable proof of your value, you don't need to posture. You know. 5. Never explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Here's another trap that keeps people weak: the endless urge to explain. I fell into it myself. Years ago, I walked away from a secure job to pursue a bigger vision. It was calculated, strategic, and planned, but almost no one believed me. Friends whispered about my arrogance. Family members thought I was reckless. Colleagues predicted I'd fail. So I tried to convince them. I showed plans, spreadsheets, financial models. I explained and defended over and over, but no amount of evidence mattered because they weren't confused. They were invested in misunderstanding me. My success would have forced them to confront their own excuses, and they weren't willing to do that. That's when I learned the truth. You cannot logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. If someone needs you to be small, they will ignore every piece of evidence that proves you're not. If someone's ego requires you to fail, no explanation will ever change their mind. Machiavelli warned of this when he wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand." Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. People cling to their version of you because admitting you've outgrown it would threaten their own worldview. So stop wasting energy convincing those people. Stop handing over your power by trying to make them see. The right people won't need convincing. They'll respect your judgment even if they don't fully understand it. The right opportunities won't require lengthy justifications. They'll recognize your value without you begging them to. When you stop explaining, you reclaim energy. Energy to build. Energy to grow. Energy to invest in those who actually see your worth. And the ones who don't? Let them sit with their illusions. Don't argue with them. Don't defend yourself. Don't shrink. Just keep moving. Some people need you to stay small so they can feel big. Don't give them what they want. Give them nothing. 6. Build systems, not dependencies. Most people confuse freedom with escape. They think freedom means no rules, no commitments, no responsibilities. But that isn't freedom, that's chaos. And chaos collapses. Real freedom isn't the absence of structure, it's the presence of your own structure. Systems you design that keep moving even if people leave, jobs end, or circumstances change. Systems that make you independent. The mistake most people make? They build their lives entirely on dependencies. Their happiness depends on their partner. Their paycheck depends on one boss. Their self-worth depends on friends' approval. And when any of those collapse, so do they. I learned this the hard way. In one brutal month, I lost my job, my relationship, and my closest friends. Everything I thought was secure vanished. And I realized none of it was really mine. It was borrowed. That's when I asked, what would my life look like if it no longer depended on anyone else's permission or presence? The answer: systems. Financial systems. Multiple income streams so no single paycheck could control me. Skill systems. Abilities that travel anywhere so I'm never trapped. Personal systems. Discipline, routines, and self-respect that come from me, not from applause. Machiavelli understood this when he said, Everyone wants independence, but nobody wants to pay the price. That price is discipline. That price is building when it's boring. That price is choosing long-term stability over short-term comfort. Dependencies make you fragile. Systems make you sovereign. 7. Embrace strategic ruthlessness. The final rule of confidence is the hardest. Strategic ruthlessness. 3 years ago, I had to cut out my best friend. Not because I stopped caring, but because they refused to grow. Every conversation was the same cycle of complaints, excuses, and blame. I kept carrying them out of loyalty. But loyalty without growth is a chain. And if you're chained, you can't rise. That's when I realized every hour I gave to their drama was an hour I lost building my own future. Every ounce of energy I spent managing their problems was energy I couldn't use on my vision. Strategic ruthlessness isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity. It's the ability to put your goals above other people's comfort, to say no when yes would cost you everything. Machiavelli said, "A prince cannot use liberality without harm to himself. He should not mind being called miserly, for in time he will be thought more liberal when people see his wealth sustains him." In today's language, guard your resources, your time, your focus, your energy. People may call you selfish now. Later, they'll call you wise. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is stop enabling weakness. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step away, so someone finally feels the weight of their own choices. And sometimes the smartest thing you can do is walk away, not because you hate them, but because you refuse to be dragged down. Your resources are finite. Every yes steals from something else. Most people stay stuck because they say yes to everyone but themselves. The few who rise are the ones who accept short-term disappointment from others in exchange for long-term loyalty to their own future. The untouchable truth. Here's what this all comes down to. You're not broken. You're not too late, too old, too inexperienced, or too damaged. The only reason you've been stuck is because you've been asking for permission. But permission was never required. Confidence isn't noise. It's silence that makes people lean in. It's emotions you control instead of emotions that control you. It's information guarded, competence sharpened, systems built, and decisions made without apology. And when you embody that, you won't need to announce it. People will feel it. They'll know you've stopped asking. Because power doesn't declare itself. It moves, and the world adjusts. If you're ready to stop asking and start choosing, subscribe. Your turn starts now.